All right, so today we're going deep into Genesis chapter 20.
Oh, this is a good one.
It really is. It's a story about Abraham and Sarah and a king, King Abimelech.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about choices you make when you're afraid.
Fear can really drive us to do things we wouldn't normally do.
Right, exactly. So it starts with Abraham and Sarah, they're traveling.
Right.
And they arrive in Gerar, and that's where King Abimelech rules.
Okay.
And here's where it gets good.
Okay.
Abraham gets scared, and he tells Abimelech that Sarah's his sister.
Oh, not his wife.
Not his wife.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah, and it's not even the first time, right?
So this is like, remember Genesis 12? He did the same thing with the Pharaoh.
With the Pharaoh, right.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, is this like a pattern for him?
Like when he feels threatened or something?
Yeah, like what does that tell us about him?
Exactly. He's supposed to be this man of faith.
Yeah.
But this seems, I don't know, kind of deceptive.
It is a contradiction.
Right.
But I mean, I guess we could empathize. He's in a foreign land.
That's true, yeah.
Doesn't know the customs.
Right.
Maybe worried about Sarah,
Yeah.
how her beauty will be perceived.
But I mean, you gotta wonder, was there another way?
Like, could he have relied on God?
Yeah, instead of just lying.
Like trusted that God would protect him.
That's a good point. Like, did his fear just overshadow his faith?
It's interesting, too, because later on, we find out he's a prophet.
Wait, hold on.
The text says he's a prophet.
A prophet. That changes things.
Right.
So he's chosen by God, but he still lies.
Yeah.
I'm even more confused now.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even those close to God, they still mess up.
Yeah.
They still make bad choices.
So what happens next? Does Abimelech believe him?
He does, at first. But then God steps in.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. God appears to Abimelech in a dream.
Oh, no.
Tells him straight up, Sarah is married to Abraham.
Whoa.
And, taking her would be a big mistake.
Yeah. I can't imagine waking up from that dream.
Talk about a wake-up call.
Right. So how does Abimelech react?
Well, he's terrified.
I bet.
Especially since he hasn't even touched Sarah.
Oh, okay.
So he pleads with God. He's like, I didn't know.
I had no idea.
I was totally in the dark. I was acting in good faith.
Based on what I was told.
Yeah, based on what Abraham told him.
But it's interesting, right? God acknowledges that.
God sees Abimelech's innocence.
He doesn't just punish him.
He takes intent into account.
Yeah.
God knew Abimelech's heart.
It makes you think about, how we judge other people.
Do we always consider their intentions?
Right. Are we quick to condemn?
Yeah, without understanding the whole story.
Yeah, good point. So God spares Abimelech, but what about Abraham? What happens to him after this whole deception blows up?
Well, God tells Abimelech, you got to return Sarah to Abraham.
Right.
And by the way, he says Abraham's a prophet.
Oh, wow.
He can pray for you so you don't die.
Oh, man. Things are getting serious now.
Yeah.
That's intense.
This is where things get really tense.
I bet. I can only imagine that confrontation.
Oh, yeah.
Abimelech's probably fuming. It's like, hey, God told me everything.
Exactly. And then Abraham has to explain himself.
Oh, boy.
He talks about his fear, says he thought the people in Gerar, didn't respect God, might resort to violence to take Sarah.
Oh, wow.
And then he even adds, oh, and Sarah's also my half-sister.
Ugh, come on.
Yeah, right.
Like, that doesn't help your case, dude.
This makes things more complicated.
Yeah.
So what happens next? How does Abimelech react to all this?
Well, Abimelech, to his credit, does what God says.
Okay.
He gives Sarah back to Abraham.
Right.
And he even gives him all these gifts.
Like what?
Livestock, servants.
Wow.
Even offers him land.
So even after all that deception, he's still generous.
It seems that way, yeah. But there's another detail that's kind of interesting.
Abimelech gives Sarah 1,000 pieces of silver.
1,000 pieces of silver?
Yeah.
What for?
The text calls it a vindication for her, like a public apology.
Vindication, huh? That's an interesting word.
It is.
What do you think it means?
Well, some scholars think it's like recognizing the harm that was done.
To Sarah.
Yeah, to Sarah's reputation.
Yeah.
The danger she was put in because of Abraham's lie.
It's like Abimelech's acknowledging she's the one who really suffered.
Yeah, and she didn't even have a say in any of it.
Right.
It really shows, the power dynamics back then.
How women were treated.
Yeah, like property.
Your voice is silenced.
Makes you wonder, was that vindication enough?
Yeah, good point. I mean, was it really justice for Sarah?
Yeah, it raises questions about gender roles, justice in ancient society.
It also makes you question Abraham's actions even more, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if he was afraid, was it right to put Sarah in that position?
Especially since, he's supposed to be this prophet.
Yeah.
Chosen by God.
It's like he's wrestling with his own humanity.
Right.
Even while he's trying to walk with God. Makes me wonder, do we ever really escape our flaws?
That's a question for the ages. I mean, faith is a journey.
Not a destination.
Right, we're all works in progress.
Even the so-called spiritual giants.
Yeah.
But getting back to this whole consequence thing.
Right.
God closed up all the wombs in Abimelech's household.
Right, because of taking Sarah.
Right, so no one could have children.
Mm-hmm.
But then, what happens? Abraham prays for them.
Yeah, after everything is set right.
And God heals them, right?
Heals them. Restores their fertility.
That's incredible. Like, that's God's mercy in action.
And the power of prayer.
And it's interesting that God extends that grace.
Not just to Abraham.
But to Abimelech, too.
Yeah, he was essentially an outsider.
Right.
Challenges that idea that God's favor is exclusive.
Like God's compassion is for everyone.
Exactly. If you seek it, it's there.
Regardless of your background.
Yeah. It also shows the importance of, intercession.
Praying for others.
Yeah. Even those who've wronged us.
Like Abraham did for Abimelech.
It's a powerful example of forgiveness.
And compassion.
And it all comes back to prophecy.
Right.
It's not just about delivering messages.
It's about interceding for others.
Exactly.
So it sounds like this story, it's not just about a lie and what happened after.
No, it's way deeper than that.
It's about fear and faith.
Yeah.
And human mistakes.
The divine grace, yeah.
The power of prayer.
Beautifully put.
But there's one thing we haven't really talked about.
What's that?
This whole Abraham as a prophet thing.
Ah, yes.
I mean, we mentioned it, but I'm still not sure I get it.
Right.
What does that title really mean? What does it mean to be a prophet?
Okay, so in the Bible, a prophet, well, it's not just about predicting the future.
Right.
It's deeper. They're chosen by God to speak on his behalf,
So they deliver messages.
Yeah, warnings, guidance.
Like a spiritual hotline. And Abraham had that.
He did.
But he still lied. I mean, that's a big responsibility.
It is, and it makes his actions, well, they seem even more, I don't know.
Confusing.
Yeah, confusing. Like he was chosen by God.
But he still gave into fear.
It's like he's struggling, even though he's close to God.
Makes you wonder, can we ever really escape our flaws?
Good question. I think it reminds us, faith is a journey.
Not a destination.
We're all a work in progress, right?
Even the big names, the heroes of faith.
Exactly. They were human too.
Okay, so back to Abraham as this prophet.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think God told Abimelech?
It seems like God was elevating Abraham's status.
Like giving him credibility?
Exactly. Not just to Abimelech.
But to everyone.
Right. It's like God saying, this is my guy. Listen to him.
And that explains why Abimelech had to get Abraham to pray for him.
It does, like a divine stamp of approval.
Shows the power of prayer, especially coming from a prophet.
It does. God works through people.
And in this case, Abraham's prayer, well, it saved Abimelech.
Yeah. And his household.
It makes you think, does God still talk to people today?
That's a question people have been asking forever.
Yeah, how would we even know?
Some think it stopped at the Bible.
Others think, what, it's still happening?
Through feelings, intuition.
The Holy Spirit, maybe?
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure.
I think the point is, God can work in mysterious ways.
Ways we might not expect.
Maybe it's not a booming voice.
But a quiet nudge.
So, what have we learned? I mean, the story, it's more than just a lie, right?
It is. It shows us that even the most faithful, they mess up.
They're human.
Driven by fear.
And our choices, they matter. They have consequences.
Not just for us, for others too.
But it also shows God's grace, right? He forgives.
It heals.
And he uses imperfect people.
To do his work.
I think it also challenges us to think about our own faith.
To look for God's guidance.
To listen for his voice.
Yeah, he might be speaking even when we least expect it.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.